It is getting harder and harder to release a financially successful video game. The number of games on Steam continues to skyrocket year after year, driving up competition. And this trend is only set to grow exponentially as free game engines continue to improve, and widely available free AI tools continues to make creating games easier than ever before. And this leads us to one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves as game developers. How do we get people to want to play our games? How can we market our games effectively? And by the end, one thing is going to be very clear. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. Let's get into it. Game dev is filled with lofty ideas that are hard to execute on. We all have games that we played in the past that made us feel a certain way. And many of us get into this because we want to recreate those experiences for other people through our own games. And games like that take a while to make. And the longer it takes you to make a game, the more revenue it needs to generate to allow you to continue creating games in the future. Which means the bigger your game is, the more important marketing becomes in order for it to be considered a success. So 14,465 games were released on Steam in 2023. That is 1,206 games per month, which is roughly 40 games per day. That is a very sobering number. So let's talk about how we can get your game to stand out apart from the other 39 that are going to release on the same day. Planning to go viral. I want to be very, very clear. Doing this and only this, statistically speaking, is not going to work out very well for you. What that would look like is for a really long time releasing absolutely nothing. No blog posts, no devlogs, no trailers, no shorts, but then one day just dropping a trailer and hoping that it's going to blow up. If you've been working on your game for a really long time and then you drop a trailer that only gets a couple of hundred views, you're going to feel crushed. So this method needs to be combined with other methods. But viralability, if that is even a word, is something that can go a long way. Choo Choo Charles is a perfect example of this. The developer's YouTube channel completely blew up because of the viralability of his game. By the way, I'm linking a whole bunch of great marketing resources in the description, including the full interview that this developer did with Thomas Brush. But the premise that made his game go viral was that he took a very memorable character from a kid's show, Thomas the Tank Engine, and he slapped it into a horror game and turned it into something nightmarish and scary as hell. How could a game about running away from a spider train not go viral? He launched that game with 550,000 wishlists. Another game you might have heard of is Unrecord. It's not out yet, but just go watch the trailer and you will understand. It's so realistic looking, it's ridiculous. What might or might not make a game go viral can be really hard to plan though, which is why I say it's not a good thing to solely rely on. But adding it to your marketing plan can only serve to help you. Find an it factor that will make people talk about your game. Is it meme worthy? Is it an idea that will get people talking? Use memorable hooks. Hooks are another thing that can get people talking about your game. And if people are talking about your game, they're going to want to buy it. Contrary to what you might have heard about hooks, they come in different shapes and sizes. There are mechanic hooks, where something about the way your game is played is different than most others. But there are also visual hooks. And there are story or idea hooks. Cult of the Lamb is the first game that comes to mind for me that employs all three really well. It's obviously gorgeous and unique looking. You run and operate a cult and try to grow your following. That's a story hook. And the branching paths you can follow, where you can go from marrying your followers to murdering them, I would call that a mechanical hook. Here's the thing, a good hook will be easy and simple to understand. Can you show off your hook in a 20-second video clip? If you need more time than that, then chances are people's attention spans are not big enough for it to really grab a lot of people's attention. Get streamers and YouTubers to play your game. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Request Steam keys, send them to a long list of streamers and YouTubers. Everything in sales and marketing boils down to math. The more eyeballs you get on your game, the more people will wishlist your game. And the more visually appealing and hooky your game is, the more likely those eyeballs will convert into wishlists and purchases. And if you can't find anyone to play your game, there are also a lot of YouTube channels dedicated to upcoming indie titles. So you could reach out to those as well. Paid advertising. Not everyone has the budget to pay for marketing, but there are some low budget options available to you that give you full control over your budget. Google Ads are a very obvious one, and in case you don't know, you do have full control over how much you spend per day on your ads, so you can determine how much you want to spend. You could also email YouTubers and streamers to see if they'd be willing to sponsor your game in one of their videos. Patch Magazine was kind enough to send us a copy of their magazine from the UK. Anyone who would subscribe to read this is going to be in your perfect target audience, and magazine ads are not very expensive. Real quick, if you're enjoying the video, thank you if you drop a like or a comment down below. Festivals or conferences. When you actually have a good vertical slice to show, going out to game dev conferences and festivals, if you can make it out, have always been a great way to go. You will get wish lists from those conferences, as well as some really valuable feedback. But I would argue that the biggest advantage of going to these kind of events is because journalists and YouTubers go to these events, and they will make content about what they see there. If they play your game and they like it, you might just have an article or a video made about it. Steam Next Fest is the one that obviously needs to get mentioned, with a word of caution. I watched a really good video by gamedev Greetable, link below, about his experience with Steam Next Fest. Have you ever tried to find decent indie game dev gear? I have, and there was not a whole lot of good options out there. For years, I actually resorted to having Nikki make it for me. So if you would like a way to support the channel and get some of that hard to find clothing that speaks to your game dev soul, check out our awesome new merch shop. From cozy hoodies to pixel perfect tees, our gear is designed for and by passionate developers like you. Support the dream, wear the passion, and join us on the indie journey. And his big takeaway from participating is that he was too early. All the best performing Next Fest games that he saw were like a month away from releasing. And that makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because you can capitalize on that momentum you get from Next Fest and take that right into launch. So if you are participating in Steam Next Fest, make sure that your demo is in a polished enough state that it represents the final product, because you only get to enter your game one time. Online posting. The most standard advice I see is to go on Twitter and go on Reddit. You'll see a lot of wishlist Wednesdays on Twitter, where you're essentially kind of exchanging wishlists with other game developers, essentially. You will get some wishlists from doing this, and it might help boost your page a little bit with Steam. But honestly, other developers are not your target audience, so I don't know how many of those wishlists will actually convert into sales. But wishlists are always a good thing, because the more wishlists you have, the more likely Steam will promote your game. Contacting journalists. Some journalists have quotas in terms of how many articles they have to write, so you might find some of them receptive to trying and writing about your game. But again, the more of an it factor that your game has, the better the chances are that they will actually respond and play your game. Become your own brand. And this is probably the most divisive and controversial method. The thought behind this is, instead of going to other YouTubers and other streamers and hoping that they'll play your game, why not grow your own audience over time? I personally feel like this method will continue to grow more and more relevant as competition continues to increase. But I am a YouTuber, so I am very biased on this, so take everything I say with that in mind. Though my advice here is not specifically about YouTube, it's more about building your own brand that you can market your game under. Could be a podcast, could be a stream, YouTube, TikTok, blog posts, doesn't really matter. Now, the thing with this method is it's slow. It takes forever to build an audience, and it takes a lot of time away from developing your game. But in a lot of cases, it can make all the difference. Choo Choo Charles wasn't just a viral idea. The developer had his own YouTube channel and got millions of views on every single post. But launching with over 500,000 wishlists is something that most of us will never see. So on the more realistic side of things, I recently interviewed Watt Designs, and his game Isle Goblin is currently sitting with a little over 20,000 wishlists. He has just a little over 50,000 subscribers, and he's got 20,000 wishlists, which was, by the way, his original goal for launch. He has since revised that goal to 50,000, and he's doing that because for him, that's realistic at this point. He can release a devlog and expect to make a certain number of wish lists for that video. If you launch a Kickstarter, you will raise more funds if you have an established brand. If you want to go with a publisher, they will take you more seriously if you already have an audience. If you join Steam Next Fest, you can expect your game to rank better because you already have an audience. And because it gets ranked better, you're going to get more organic wish lists. But this is a double-edged sword. Making podcast episodes, writing blog articles, making YouTube videos, these things take a lot of time. Here's the thing though, no matter which marketing methods you use, marketing needs to have momentum behind it. One splash near launch will very likely not do what you want it to do. Riding a wave that gets bigger and more powerful over time will make success that much easier for you to obtain later. So whatever you do, make a plan and start doing it consistently soon. You want to go into the launch of your game with the momentum of months or years worth of effort behind it. Momentum has this weird paradoxical truth to it. The more wish lists you have, the more wish lists you're going to get. Do whatever you can for as long as you can to gather those wish lists and build your momentum before launch. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.